The Scream franchise has some crazy ways to finish someone off. I'm looking at you, Tatum Riley. The series has even taken away some of our beloved characters, sometimes in a gruesome fashion. Today, I will be ranking every character death in the Scream franchise. Let's get into it. Welcome back, I'm Sippin, and before we get into it, spoiler alert for every Scream movie. Okay, sweet, I warned you. Now, let's dive in with Scream 1, the original, the OG.
Finally!
Speaking of OG, Steve Orth. The one that started it all. With all things considered, he didn't have that crazy of a death. I mean, to be honest, it was very par for the course in most terms for the series, but it does change. It is one of the only kills we see someone tied up. With all that being considered, I won't lie, it does bump him up, but not by much. Like I said, he went out, but not in some crazy way. His ending was quick and to the point and to help build tension for our next character, and well, I guess it was his beginning too, considering he had like 5 minutes of chilling in that chair before his ending. Bro must have seriously been impatient, kinda like me, so let's move on to Casey Becker. The opening kill to top all opening kills. I want to preface, I'm ranking based on the characters and not the actors or actresses. But you have to slap me and call me a silly little goober if I didn't at least mention the shock her death gave people. I'm sure you're aware, but Drew Barrymore was a huge star back when they were filming this, and she was sprinkled all over the promotional material. Like, look at this.
Bam! Boom! Bam!
Boom! You see what I mean, dude? Everywhere. You would assume she's going to be a major lead in this film, only for her to be one of the opening kills. Her death immediately set the tone for the movie, and their scene is yet to be topped, and there has been some bangers trying to fight for that spot. And then there's Scream 4.
This is not a banger. This is not a banger. And I know bangers. I know bangers.
This was before we knew about there being the second killer, so during her sequence, it just seemed like Ghostface was teleporting. Like, bro was everywhere all at once. We get the legendary Roger L. Jackson asking her the famous horror questions, and he tricks her with the good old Friday the 13th killer one. One question that I have to point out though was not really a horror question, and it was when he told her to guess which door he was at. At first we had to assume it to be 50-50, but upon a rewatch is when we realize both killers are there, so no door is actually safe. Such a legendary scene that I legally have to put it here. This scene is so iconic that tons of people have broke it down to the finer details. Go check out Zach Cherry's video on it if you want to know the deeper details. Super cool. Can you guess who's next? I'll give you 3 seconds to guess. 3, Principal Hembry. Principal Hembry is one of the characters of all time, and his initial demise was not the greatest. One of the weaker kills among the first century. I know what you're wondering. Yes, avocados are a fruit, not a vegetable. They're technically considered a single-seeded berry, believe it or not. Also, yes, I just looked up random fun facts for that. The main reason I didn't put Hembry lower is simply due to what they did after he was slept. After he was caught by surprise and poked with the sharp end of the knife twice, he was strewn up on the football field's goalpost to be seen by everyone. That's the difference. It wasn't just a private affair thing. They wanted everyone to see what they did. Super wild. While his exit might not have been the best, my ranking of every Ghostface killer is. Click here to see that if you haven't already. One of, if not the wildest death in this whole franchise belongs to Tatum Riley. Tatum Riley, sister of another beloved character, Dewey Riley, met her untimely end with the most convenient tool to any killer. That's right, a garage door. More specifically, a doggy door built into a garage door. So, if you have one of those, I'm suspicious of you. Trust. I mean, come on, dude. She was literally crawling through a doggy door and had her neck broken from the garage door lifting to the ceiling, and then being electrocuted afterwards just because why not, I guess. While there were so many ways she could have survived, especially as she did show her skills in fighting back, at the same time, if she did survive, then we wouldn't have arguably the second most memorable kill in the franchise. Sadly, for the next victim, their demise wasn't as memorable as Tatum's. That person is the one and only Kenny the cameraman. Kenny the mother trucking cameraman. I felt so bad for bro. Not only was he attacked by Ghostface, but he was also attacked by Gail for the entire film. Now, we love Gail in this household, but the first film did her no favors in the human relations department. First, let me go ahead and do this. Leading up to his death, he and Sidney are up in his news van watching Ghostface approach Randy. But before they could wipe out Randy, Ghostface gets distracted by Sid screaming. Kenny, being the ultimate Chad that he is, attempts to go out and help Randy. But there's an issue. He went and done forgot that his footage is on a 30-second delay. So as soon as Brody steps outside, Ghostface tickles his neck. Again, the ultimate Chad that Kenny is. He uses his last moments to mutter the word door to make sure Sidney can escape, which the 30-second delay scenario is very cool and unique. It's still just drowned out by a lackluster throat cut. An underrated hero with the most non-memorable death scene in the original Scream. Up next, we got a victim that wasn't a victim. That's right, we got Stu Macher. Stu Macher is easily my favorite Ghostface of all time. His whole persona is so over the top and I love it. I know, I said I'm not involving the actors in this ranking, and I'm not, but I just gotta say how amazing Matthew Lillard is. Every movie I've seen him act in, he's carried. All the way from 13 Ghosts to Scooby-Doo. Anyways, back to his role in Scream. He was obviously one of the killers, but the killers in these films always meet their end. Except for Stu. Stu will be in Scream 7. Nah. I know, that's just a dream of mine. Stu started meeting his end when he and Billy began stabbing each other to help with their plan on putting the blame on Mr. Prescott. To this day, I never understand why they did it when they did it. Like, their plan still required them taking out Sidney, so why not do that and then do the friendly fire? Did they just want Sidney to watch or something? Back to that self-sabotage. Billy intentionally went over the top on Stu, probably to cover his tracks, which causes Stu to start fearing that he was dying because of the blood loss. These few scenes were so impactful for Stu as a character. It felt real and genuine concern as he was breaking down over his destroyed house, his parents' rage, and the fact that he was just dying. So again, props to Matthew Lillard for that, but eventually he does attack Sidney, and she knocks him down and tosses a TV down on his head. And this isn't no 2024 Samsung flat screen TV. This is one of those big boys with the big old backs. Having said all this, check this out. Bam. Yes. A lot of people believe that he is still alive, so much so that Scream 6 even played into it. More on that later when we get into Scream 6. Stu Macher not only had a slow emotional death, but also created a divide between the entire franchise that will never be settled. So obviously his death has to be there, and if you disagree, then that sucks, cause it's wrong. Nah, you know I'm just joshing you. Everyone has their own opinions. Speaking of opinions, let me know yours down below in the comments. Is Stu the best Ghostface, or is Billy Lumis? Billy Lumis, the boyfriend of Sidney, and later the ghost dad of Sam Carpenter. Easily top 4 Ghostface killers, and he's not number 4. Billy being one of the killers made everyone question their boyfriends in these movies. It even caused Sidney to not even trust Derek in Scream 2. Billy met his demise when he assumed Gail was finished off when she wasn't. Right when he's about to stab Sidney, Gail gets up and pops a round into bro. Movie's over. Psych. The good old-fashioned Scream staple. You gotta shoot him in the head. So Billy does a little Freddy Fazbear jump scare and Sidney makes him go night-night. That was a lot, but still, I mean, it was a crazy ending and it did create a new rule for the series going forward. But the death itself wasn't perfect. For example, the jump scare was never amazing to me. Like, you got one last scare in you and you just reach your arm out? Still, it was great and it was a tough choice. But I just couldn't do it. Close, but no cigar. That's every death in the original Scream. Part 2 will be released soon, trust that. But in the meantime, why don't you check out this video where I solved a cryptic movie teaser, or this video where I talk about the most anticipated horror movies for 2024. I appreciate you and your time, and as always, stay chill, and I will see y'all next time.
Cause let's face it, baby, these days, you gotta have a sequel.